Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special event here at the Penguin Random House Spring Book and Author Festival. By the way, this is our first ever Penguin Random House Festival, and we are so excited that you are with us today. And this is a very special book buzz for you, and this is going to be, you're just going to be hearing from Penguin Random House Library Marketing, along with some of our very wonderful client publishers that have wonderful lists of their own. So before we get started, there's just a couple of housekeeping things that I'd like to tell you, but this is the order that we're going to be going in. And so you'll be able to tell, who's coming next. So we hope you will join us for the entire event. And just so you know, this is a pre-recorded session, so it will be available in the virtual environment for 3 months after this is over, so you could go back and watch it again. And there's no live Q&A, but feel free to leave your comments on Twitter with the hashtag PRHBookFest. And so, like I said, this is the lineup, and thank you all so much for joining us today. And we are going to start off with Boyds, Mill, and Kane, and I will see you at the very end. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Juliana Laletta, and I'm the publisher of Boyds, Mills, and Kane. And I'm joined here today by Carolyn Yoder, executive editor of our Calkins Creek imprint, which focuses on U.S. history, and Rebecca Davis, editorial director of our Boyds Mills Press imprint, and she'll be telling you about some great new fiction picture books. And we're all thrilled to get to talk to you about our beloved books. So let's get started with Carolyn Yoder and Calkins Creek.
And thank you, Juliana. And I am so excited to be introducing The Leaf Detective by Heather Lang, illustrated by Jonna Christie. Endorsed by Jane Goodall and E.O. Wilson, The Leaf Detective is about Meg Lohman and her passion for the natural world, but that's the natural world above her head. Later in life, Meg set out to investigate the rainforest canopies and be the first scientist to do so. It wasn't easy. Meg faced discrimination in the job, in the classroom. The canopy was very hard to get to, and deforestation was taking place. But she persevered and created a way to get to the canopies, to get to the top of the trees, discovering all that was there and telling everybody about it. So she became known, Meg Lohman became known as the defender of the treetops. The Leaf Detective is the perfect STEAM book for 7 to 10-year-olds, the perfect book for now, dealing with deforestation and environmental activism. And Heather Lang is the perfect author to write about it. She worked very closely with Meg herself, and she traveled to the Amazon and stood on one of those canopies. But I want to point out that The Leaf Detective is much more than a biography. It's a visual masterpiece by Jonna Christie. And it's also a science book filled with scientific facts throughout. I don't think you can see, but inside those leaves are just exceptional scientific facts. The back matter includes an author's note, a detailed diagram of the layers, leaves, and life in the Amazon rainforest, how the indigenous people use the rainforest, and there are pictures of the Leaf Detective and the author in a canopy. So it's just a wonderful introduction to the tops of the trees. View from Pagoda Hill. This timely book just received a star from School Library Journal, so we're very excited about it. Noted novelist Michaela McCall reaches deep into her family history to tell her great-great-grandmother's story. In doing so, Michaela asks, how does it feel to not belong in the country of your birth and a country you are sent to live? She explores these universal themes and struggles in this middle grade novel that takes place in 19th century China and America. 12-year-old Ning struggles to find her place in the world. As the daughter of a Chinese woman and an American man, Ning doesn't fit in 1870s Shanghai, where her American features and unbound feet make her stand out. But when Ning is sent to America to live with her father's family, she finds she doesn't fit in America either. Here she faces racism and prejudice for her Chinese appearances and customs. But eventually, with the help of her American family, she finds herself and accepts both sides of her heritage. It's a very heartwarming, very tenderly told. The real Ning was named Nina Hamill, and she traveled to America with her father she barely knew and settled in Baldwinsville, New York. And the thing that's really great about it and where we got the title from is her American family, to make her feel at home, painted a pagoda on their barn, which you can still see today, and you can see in the background. The author's note goes into more detail about the background of the story. At that time in America, there was an anti-Asian sentiment was running rampant, which is a sentiment that we are still experiencing, unfortunately, to this day. The themes of immigration and dual heritage are also relevant today. And this is really ultimately a book about a young girl who's struggling to find her place in the world, which should really resonate with a lot of readers today. Without Separation by Larry Dane Brimner is illustrated by Maya Gonzalez. One day in 1931, 12-year-old Roberto Alvarez came to school as always, but the principal told him and the other Mexican and Mexican-American students they no longer belonged there. There was a school for them now, one where they wouldn't, according to the white parents in the PTA, hold back the white students. This is 23 years before Brown v. Board of Education, Roberto Alvarez's court battle against racism and school segregation, and Lemon Grove is considered the first time an immigrant community used the courts to successfully fight injustice. In the end, the school was ordered to receive the students, quote, without separation or segregation. This is an historical fiction picture book. It's mostly true for grades 2 to 5, and it follows the fight and shows how the struggle that is almost 100 years old is still relevant today. How we as a country are still trying to be fair and equal, how we're still trying to embrace all peoples and to let them have a voice, to let them find that their voice in making a difference. I'm not so sure that's clear, but Larry Brimner is a Sybert medalist and a Sybert honor winner, and he lives in San Diego, and he was a teacher for years. So this is a subject is very close to his heart. And Maya Gonzalez, who was a Pura Belpre honor winner, is a leader in the Chicano art movement, and she was very dedicated to adding her authentic voice to the art. But the really exceptional thing about Without Separation is that personal connections were such a big part of the story. And Roberto Alvarez's son helped out in so many ways. He shared a lot of his personal photographs. He included a blurb on the back cover. And we also had the support of the Lemon Grove Historical Society. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful collaboration. Ambushed by Gail Jarrow. Sybert honor winner Gail Jarrow knows how to tell a story. Ambushed is the second in her medical fiasco series. The first was published last year, was Blood and Germs. But Ambushed is more of a thriller, following closely the good guy, James Garfield, President James Garfield, and the bad guy, his assassin, Charles Guiteau. It's a true crime story, a medical thriller, and a courtroom drama. Garfield's slow, agonizing death was also front page news, as people needed to know if Garfield would survive or not. It was ripped from the headlines. Thank Law and Order. But Gail also wants to give her readers more, mixing history and science, making this a perfect STEM title. When Guteau shot Garfield, there were no x-rays, so doctors had to probe into his wounds with their dirty fingers and use unsterilized instruments. Kids love that gross stuff. And throughout his ordeal, Garfield was the victim of many, many more experiments. But where there is middle grade, there is hope. From medical fiascos come medical advances. Like she did in Blood and Germs, Gail shows how doctors, through their mistakes, became aware of the importance of germ theory and the role of microbes, how cleanliness prevented infection. It sounds very, very familiar, especially today. This is the first book on Garfield for middle grades. It's a science book for fans of history and a history book for fans of science. It also has so much relevance to today. It will make kids acutely aware of how medicine and science is always changing as scientists make new discoveries. They can't help to think about their lives and how science, particularly about COVID-19, is not only changing, but is also front page news. So thank you again for listening to me. And now over to Rebecca Davis, editorial director of Boyds Mills Press.
Hi. Grow by Joanne Early Mackin, illustrated by Stephanie Pfizer Coleman. Grow celebrates the way that all living things, from acorns to tadpoles to fawns to children, grow, change, and become unique individuals. The text is lyrical and immediate, showing readers what it might be like to be an acorn, swinging from a twig, falling to the ground, stretching roots into soil and limbs into sky until you've transformed into a tall oak tree. It sings the story of the growth of a variety of animals until it finally shows how children, too, grow from babies into individuals unlike anyone else in this whole dazzling world. Stephanie Pfizer Coleman portrays children and their families interacting with nature in a park, often playing in ways that parallel the animals' actions. The images are rife with details for readers to find on repeated readings. Diversity is a theme throughout, both in the characters and in the families featured in the art. This is a book that shows how change, which can be difficult and challenging, is a natural part of life. It captures the thrill of learning new things, and it honors the changes that make us unique. With its universal themes and I love you qualities, Grow is an ideal bedtime book for children ages 3 to 7, and the perfect way to mark any milestone or momentous change in a child's life. Next book is Little Scoot by Rebecca K. Dotlich, illustrated by Edson Ake. Little Scoot is the perfect book for the times we are living in, from this crazy pandemic to the revelation of the importance of tugboats that we saw last week as a cargo ship got stuck in the Suez Canal, holding up 13% of the world's shipments. Little Scoot is a small tugboat that is frightened of a storm but must bravely sail into it in order to rescue a big barge. It's a familiar and maybe even classic story, but what makes this book stand out is Rebecca K. Dotlich's astonishingly beautiful, rhythmic, and lyrical language. This is a book that begs to be read out loud. Little Scoot has waves swoosh in her eyes and water fall in her mouth, and yet constantly she straightens her stack and continues with her job. This is an inspirational tale. It's a tale of perseverance. And I love the way at the end of it, Little Scoot uses her wits to figure out how to move this gigantic barge that is thoroughly and completely stuck. This is a story that will also comfort and encourage readers as our world opens up in the coming months and they brave all sorts of new situations. It's really lovely. Next is Catastrophe, A Story of Patterns by Anne-Marie Stevens, illustrated by Jen Harney. In Catastrophe, 9 kittens and their cat captain go on a funny fishing adventure in which the fish outwit them. I love this book because it's humorous and packed with details. All 10 kitties have personalities and subplots, and there's a worm and a moth to be found in nearly every illustration. At the same time, the story introduces the concept of patterns, which is a building block for math. And Anne-Marie does this in a concrete way, showing how patterns are important in the real world. Because of course, if you row haphazardly instead of in a pattern, you may row in circles. And if all 10 cats lean in the same direction, you may just have a catastrophe before those sneaky fish create one. Anne-Marie Stevens has been a first grade teacher for nearly 30 years. She knows her audience well, and she has 3 special talents as a writer. First, she spins fun stories. Second, she has a great ear for rhythm and alliteration, so her tales are also terrific read-alouds. Third, she knows how to explore STEM curriculum in concrete ways and always includes back matter that will be helpful to teachers, parents, and kids. Catastrophe is the sort of madcap adventure with humor throughout that kids will adore, and it also introduces a concept that is the basis for all math. And now I'm going to turn it over to our publisher, Juliana Laletta.
Thanks, Rebecca. And last but not least, in the Kane Press imprint, I'm very excited about a brand new nonfiction STEM series coming out this August, Eureka, the Biography of an Idea. Eureka dives into some of the great aha moments in world history. I think of it as akin to the Who Was series, but for an idea. Each of these first 4 books, geared to kids ages 4 to 8, investigates one groundbreaking STEM discovery and tells that invention's life story in a really fun, engaging way. The bicycle, the camera, the light bulb, and glasses. Who invented them? How did they change over time and around the world? It's rarely the case that one person invented something and then it just froze in time that way. So one thing that sets Eureka apart is our ability to tell a story over time and across a diverse multicultural landscape. For instance, with the invention of glasses, we see constant improvements from their beginnings in ancient Greece and ancient Egypt to the US, each inventor along the way tweaking and tweaking to make something work better. So what I personally love in this series is its underpinning of collective humanity and this idea that we are all better when we work together. But as I said, Eureka is primarily a STEM series showing the process of invention from failure to success. Each book includes a spread breaking down exactly how an invention works and includes fun facts in the back matter. Eureka is a perfect fit for schools and libraries and is made for kids who wonder where things come from and how they work. And we're publishing simultaneously in hardcover and paperback and of course ebook, so you have plenty of options to suit all your needs. And with that said, thank you for spending a little time with Boyds, Mills, and Kane today. And if you have any questions, our emails are up on the screen. And I believe next up is Charlesbridge.
Sorry, took me a minute to unmute. Hi, everyone. This is Donna from Charlesbridge. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Please visit our virtual booth to find digital galleys, catalogs, raffles, author talks, and more. And now to share some books that I'm excited about releasing this summer and fall from Charlesbridge and our adult imprint, Imagine. First up is Storytelling Math. This series launched in October 2020 with these titles shown. What is storytelling math? Think of math picture books for ages 0 to 5. What comes to mind? If you're like most adults, you think of books about counting or shapes, and they likely feature animals or white main characters rather than reflecting current US demographics in which young children of color predominate. Why don't we tend to think of books that offer a wider range of math topics, feature main characters of color, appeal to a broad audience, and are written by authors of color? Charlesbridge has partnered with the math and science experts at the nonprofit Turk and the Heising Simons Foundation to create just such books. Releasing on April 20th is Bracelets for Bina's Brothers by Rajani Laraka and illustrated by Chaya Prabhat. For the Hindu holiday of Raksha Bandhan, Beena is determined to make beaded bracelets for her brothers. She finds out which colors her brothers like and dislike and sets to work. Working with her every other one beading pattern causes Beena to discover something new about patterns and her brothers. Coming in August is Usha and the Big Digger by Amitha Jagannath Knight and illustrated by Sandhya Prabhat. When sisters Usha and Arti look up at the stars, they see different things. Arti sees the Big Dipper, but Usha sees the Big Digger. And cousin Gloria sees the big kite. Could they all be right? A playful introduction to geometry and spatial relationships featuring Indian American characters and a note about cultures and constellations. And also releasing in August with Storytelling Math is Look Grandma Ni Alizi by Art Colson and illustrated by Madeline Goodnight. Bo wants to find the perfect container to show off his traditional marbles for the Cherokee National Holiday. It needs to be just the right size, big enough to fit all the marbles, but not too big to fit in his family's booth at the festival. A playful exploration of volume and capacity featuring native characters and a glossary of Cherokee words. And as you see, Grace Lynn's board books and the first two picture books, The Animals Would Not Sleep, and Leah and Luis, Who Has More, are releasing in Spanish-English bilingual editions in September. Next up is D39. I absolutely love this dystopian middle grade novel by poet Irene Latham. This novel in verse introduces us to 12-year-old Clint Tobis, who lives with her father on a farm in the Worstlands. In a future United States, civil war is devastating a country on its last legs. On one side, the patriots. On the other, President Vex's corrupt government. In the middle, everybody else just trying to survive. Irene's series of linked poems take readers down burrows of language and tense situations. Through the twists and turns of this riveting read, Irene Latham deftly shows how kindness can appear in unexpected places during uncertain times. Visit our booth for a conversation with Irene Latham and editor Karen Boss. Also visit our website at charlesbridge.com/D-39 to hear a reading by Irene and a view of the book trailer. Next up is Ruth Spiro's super popular Baby Loves Science series, which continues with a holiday twist. Baby explores angular momentum, torque, friction, and gravity by playing with his dreidel on Hanukkah. And Baby explores electricity, circuits, and electrical safety while enjoying all the sparkly lights on Christmas. These adorable books, illustrated by Irene Chan, are sweet and show the real science behind everyday things that fascinate babies and toddlers. Join us in our booth for a conversation with Ruth and editor Monica Perez and about Ruth's spin-off series, Baby Loves Political Science. Next up, Diwali is the Hindu festival of lights, and it's Archie's favorite holiday. She's invited her friends over to celebrate, and she hopes they enjoy it as much as she does. But when a storm washes away her Rangoli and knocks out the power, she's worried her party will be a bust and nobody will like Diwali. But when Archie explains the story of the holiday, her friends are entranced. The electricity eventually comes back on, and everyone has an amazing time. Archie Celebrates Diwali is Mitali Banerjee Ruth's debut book. Parvinder Singh has worked in animation before he started illustrating picture books. This book releases in September and plenty of time to get ready for Diwali, which starts on November 4th. Everyone's favorite little reader, Lola, is back in a new adventure. It's time for her first sleepover with her cousin, Hani. There's lots of play, good food, a movie, and a different kind of bedtime story. Auntie tells the story of growing up with Lola's daddy with a book full of photos. It's a reassuring read for children preparing for their own sleepover adventures. Next up is Worst Case Colin. Colin is always prepared for something to go wrong. Ever since he lost his mom in a car accident, he's been journaling about how to overcome things like avalanches, riptides, or even a bad case of halitosis. Meanwhile, Colin's father grows more distant by the day and has started hoarding things throughout their house. Determined to hide his home life from his friends, Colin navigates middle school alongside the hilarious and clueless Liam and Georgia, who Colin may have feelings for. Can Colin learn to be vulnerable around those he loves, even when he can't control every possible scenario? Next up, from our Imagine list which is our adult nonfiction imprint, we have some very compelling new stories this year. Starting with In Defense of Liberal Democracy by economist and former finance minister of El Salvador, merging expert historical, political, and economic analysis, Manuel Hines shows how our recent technological revolution, which he calls the connectivity revolution, has led to a crisis of divisiveness, assessing the angry rhetoric and polarization of current political and social discourse in the US. Hines considers the dangers of seeking populist solutions to our current upheaval and shows how the traditions and institutions of liberal democracy restored prosperity, freedom, and social equity during the Industrial Revolution, the Great Depression, and other periods of political instability. Mr. Hines joins editor Kevin Stevens in conversation in our booth today, so please join us there. They'll be discussing principles of liberal democracy have healed America in the previous crises and can do so again. And as you probably saw, Dance or Die is a memoir of a young refugee, Ahmad Judah, who grew up in war-torn Damascus with dreams of becoming a dancer. Neither bombs nor family opposition keep him from taking classes, practicing hard, and ultimately becoming a Middle Eastern celebrity after making the semifinal of the Arab edition of So You Think You Can Dance, which he was told he could not win because he was stateless. But ISIS threatens him with death if he continues dancing. His father kicks him out of the house, and the war around him intensifies. Recruited by one of Syria's top dance companies, Ahmad persists in his dream and gets a tattoo on his neck, right where the executioner's blade would fall, that says "Dance or Die." It's a powerful look at refugee life in Syria and tells of the pursuit of personal expression and the power of art to transcend suffering. It follows Ahmad from Damascus to Beirut to Amsterdam, where he finds a home with one of Europe's top ballet troupes, and from where he continues to fight for the human rights of refugees everywhere through his art, his activism, and his commitment to justice. That's it for me right now. Thanks so much for everyone. Please visit our booth today and stop by our website at charlesbridge.com/PRH for more celebration of today's book and author festival. And now over to Terry at Holiday House.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Terry Borzamato Greenberg, Vice President of Marketing and Publicity at Holiday House and Pixel & Ink, and I'm delighted to share with you a selection of our summer and fall titles. We'll start off with The Dreamweavers by G.Z. Schmidt, who's speaking here today. Inspired by Chinese mythology and history, this is a beautifully written historical fantasy novel. As G.Z. writes in her author's note, this book is a letter to my Chinese roots.
Terry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think you need to start sharing your screen.
Sorry. It says it will stop sharing other screens.
That's just fine.
Okay. And I
There
can
we
fix
go.
this at work. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry. Hello, everyone. I'm Terry Borzamato Greenberg, Vice President of Marketing and Publicity at Holiday House and Pixel & Ink, and I am delighted to share with you a selection of our summer and fall titles. We'll start with The Dreamweavers by G.Z. Schmidt, who's speaking here today. Inspired by Chinese mythology and history, this is a beautifully written historical fantasy novel. As G.Z. writes in her author's note, this book is a letter to my Chinese roots. Toasty is a deliciously funny story about a piece of bread who wants to be a dog. Sarah Wong's inspiration for Toasty came from her childhood experience as an immigrant and her discovery that you find your best friends when you're willing to just be yourself. And we're particularly excited. We just got the book reviewed in the New York Times this week. In acclaimed graphic novelist and New Yorker cover artist Tom Gall's first picture book for children, a little wooden robot goes on a quest to find his missing sister for a memorable contemporary bedtime story. In You Are a Reader, You Are a Writer, we have a flip book, 2 books in one that inspire and encourage children who are learning to read and write. It's filled with ideas for both, as well as how to move on if you get stuck. We are super excited about launching our new I Like to Read comics line this month. We'll be adding to the series this summer with Frog and Ball by Kathy Capel and 5 Magic Rooms by Laura Netzger. And you can see the 2 titles that are out in hardcover now will be coming out in paperback this summer. We're pleased to add 6 new books to our Me Gusta Leer line, Spanish editions of our most popular I Like to Read books for emerging readers. Next up, our History of Western Art and Comics series is sure to make art come alive for young readers. Readers can follow along with a hipster grandpa and his inquisitive children as they learn about artists who dared to break the mold. The Most Perfect Thing in the Universe. Beautifully written. This is by Tricia Springstub. It's the story of an unadventurous girl who discovers she is anything but when she must find a way to get help to her mother, who has disappeared in the Arctic tundra. Lisa Klein Ransom's award-winning trilogy, which began with Finding Langston, will be complete with the 3rd book, Being Clem. It opens with Clem's family receiving the devastating news that their father has been killed in the Port Chicago disaster in California. Clem's quick sense of humor is an indispensable tool as he navigates challenges and figures out how to carry on his father's legacy while remaining true to himself. In Everywhere Blue by Joanna Rossmassler Fritz, a brother's disappearance turns one family upside down. This powerful debut novel in verse addresses the climate crisis, intergenerational discourse, and mental illness in an accessible, hopeful way. We begin our fall list with a new book from 6-time Pura Belpré winner Juji Morales, told with a combination of powerful, spare language and lush, complex imagery that will remind you of dreamers. Bright Star, or in Spanish, Lucero, and there will be a simultaneous Spanish edition. This book is the story of a young fawn making her way through a border landscape teeming with flora and fauna native to the region. Just beautiful. Next is I Hop, the 4th I Like to Read book about a Latinx boy, written and illustrated by Pura Belpré honoree Joe Cepeda. It's for kindergarten readers, and it's just so much fun. Let's Be Friends, Somos Amigos, is the first of 2 books in our My Friend, My Amigo series by Renee Colota Leñez and Nomar Perez. Everything Joe says in English, Jose says in Spanish. Just lovely, lovely story of friendship. Red is the 3rd and final book in the sequence that began with Laura Vaccaro's Seeger Green and Blue. All 3 books deal with color as an expression of emotion. Red is the color of anger and pain, but it is also the color of warmth, love, and empathy. Charles Smith and Idel Rodriguez's Song for Jimmy is an epic in every way. This is a 56-page account of guitar legend Jimi Hendrix's life in pulsing free verse. It has spectacular poster-like art, and as you can see, there is also a poster, and that will be on the flip side of the dust jacket. So there's a lot to share with young readers. Newly minted Cybert medalist Candace Fleming tells the story of Boston Diane Isabella Stewart Gardner and the museum she created, as well as its infamous art heist in this droll nonfiction picture book illustrated by Caldecott medalist Matthew Cordell. On to some novels. Mary Amato has written a truly unique series about a kid who is recruited to play interstellar soccer. This book is a thrilling read full of great sports action and high-octane suspense, and it's surprisingly poignant as it tackles timely topics such as social justice in a unique way. Salt Magic is an utterly unique historical graphic novel, fairy tale, by Hope Larson with illustrations by Rebecca Mock. When a mysterious woman puts a curse on the family well, it will be up to 12-year-old Von Seal to set things right in an epic journey that will leave her changed forever. Vial of Tears is a sweeping own voices fantasy for young adults. It's based on the rich and glittering mythology of ancient Lebanon. A cursed coin transports modern-day sisters Samira and Rima to the Phoenician underworld. The story is inspired by the author's grandfather, who shared stories of his search for antiquities as a young boy in Lebanon. The Bear House by Megan McIsaac is the first entry in a new middle grade fantasy series set in a gritty medieval world where the ruling houses are based on the constellations. Richly imagined, lightning fast, and highly commercial fantasy series is how we're describing this book, which we're also saying is Game of Thrones for kids. Next up, Pixel and Ink, series books for ages 3 to 13. Here we have the next installment in the Black Sand Beach series by Richard Fairgray, which finds the kids in another spooky adventure that cuts back and forth between summers to find out what really happened to Dash. Enthusiasm for these adorable sisters and their tiny house continues to grow. In book 4 of the Twig and Turtle series by Jennifer Richard Jacobson, Twig finds the courage to stand up for herself. Launching this summer, Trillium Sisters is a new chapter book series about 3 sisters with mysterious origins who discover they have superpowers and use them to solve problems around them and protect their mountain home. This is by Laura Brown and Ellie Kramer with illustrations by Sarah Masinga. Our tween series, the infamous Frankie Lord, continues with book 2, Going Wild. In this book, Frankie is determined to take down the supplier who is illegally selling panthers, tigers, and more to rich families for their personal zoos. Cardboardia is the launch of a new graphic novel series for 3rd to 5th graders by Lucy Campagnolo, illustrated by Richard Fairgray. 4 friends are transported through a cardboard box to a magical land where everything is made from paper or cardboard. And last, but certainly not least, Carlton Crumple. This is the continuation of our wacky monsters and fast food series created by David Fremont. When space creatures land on Earth, Carlton and the gang use their wits and a mini mart to save the day. Thank you so much for joining us today. Be sure to visit our booth and do be in touch with any questions you might have. Enjoy the rest of the day. Next up, Melville House.
Hi, folks. This is Tim McCall from Melville House. I'm Vice President and Associate Publisher, and I am very happy to be joining my esteemed colleague, Amelia Stymax, who is Marketing Director. We're very happily celebrating our 20th year this year, and we're going to bring to you 5 novels today and 2 big works of nonfiction. So let's get right to it. First up, as soon as I am able to change my screen. First up is The Storm is Upon Us. I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties.
Tim, do you see arrows down at the very bottom of your screen, kind of by where you launched the slideshow?
Down at the very bottom of my screen?
Yeah, after you go ahead and launch it, and you might
Yeah.
see some arrows down at the bottom, or you can maybe try your right and left arrow keys.
Yes, I'm trying them all, and I'm not quite sure why it was working fine. I'm so sorry.
Can you click on the slideshow tab at the top there?
The slideshow tab. Are you seeing my slideshow now?
Just the thank you slide.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm stuck on the thank you slide.
I click on slideshow up there at the top. It's home, insert, design, transitions, animations. There you go.
Yeah, it's already in slideshow mode.
That'll give you some more settings if you want to click on that.
Oh,
The tab at the top there.
yeah, I know. I need to move this.
And try, let's see if that works.
It did not.
Do you want to email it to me real quick? Can see if I can get it to go.
Yes. And where am I emailing this? Can you put that in the chat?
Yes. While we're doing that, why don't we go ahead and have Alexa from Soho start, and Tim will just come back to you. How does that sound?
That's fine.
Excellent. Okay, let me forget not to unmute myself and share my, hopefully we're not cursed here. Good. Oh. Great. Can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll jump right in. Hi, everybody. I am Alexa Waco from Soho Press. For those of you who aren't familiar with Soho Press, we are an independent press located in New York City, and we have 3 imprints. That's Soho Press, which is a literary imprint, Soho Crime, which is a crime imprint, and then Soho Teen, which is our YA imprint. Today, I'm going to be mostly talking about titles from our crime imprint with 1 literary title. And without further ado, I will get into it. Oops. Oh. Oops, sorry guys. Now I'm having trouble. I didn't have my PowerPoint at the beginning. So first off, we have Dead of Winter by Stephen Mac Jones. So this is one of our crime titles and one of our most exciting ongoing series. And for those
Alexa, we're not seeing your slides.
Oh, no. Sorry, assuming that we're going to kind of maybe cut this part out, can I just start again, because I am having trouble screen sharing too for some reason. Let me try it again. Great. Is that good?
There we go.
Okay, great. So really quick, I'll start again. This is Alexa Waco from Soho Press. For those of you who aren't familiar with Soho, we're an independent press located in New York City. We have 3 imprints: an adult literary imprint, Soho Press, an adult crime imprint, Soho Crime, and then also a teen imprint called Soho Teen. So without further ado, I'm going to be talking about a lot about our crime titles today with one literary title in there. And first up, we have Dead of Winter by Stephen Mac Jones. For those of you not already familiar with Stephen Mac Jones, this is a Hamnet and Nero Award-winning in Detroit set August Snow series, one of our most exciting series to date. And there's never been a better time to discover crime fiction's mightiest hero, who is biracial ex-cop August Snow. Dead of Winter is the third novel in this Detroit set series, but with all our series, you can kind of jump in. You don't have to read the first two, although we hope you want to. Yeah, so number 3 would be a great place to start. After winning a large corruption suit from the Detroit police, which is kind of the only background you need to know, August now fights for justice on his own terms and on behalf of Mexican Town, which is the underprotected community where he grew up. He takes on villains from all stratospheres of power. Earlier in the series, this was ICE agents and also a wealthy financial magnate. In Dead of Winter, he takes on a shadowy Detroit real estate billionaire and a ruthless fixer when a successful Mexican Town family business lands in their crosshairs. August Snow is tough, smart, and captivating. He'll remind readers of Robert B. Parker's Spencer, while Snow himself can only recall Lee Child's famous one-man army, Jack Reacher. So any fans of those series would highly recommend August Snow. And also for any fans of socially minded crime fiction, August Snow is definitely your man. And last but not least, we are really excited to share that this TV adaptation of August Snow is in the works. He's coming to the small screen, starring Keegan-Michael Key as August. So we are very excited about that. Next up, we have another exciting series, which is the Bombay Prince. Again, some of you might be familiar with Sujata Massi's series. This series takes place in 1920s Bombay. And this is also an Agatha and Edgar Award-winning mystery series. So again, this is also the third entry, but if you haven't read the series so far, you are more than welcome to jump in at this point. You won't be confused, although again, we hope you jump back in the series too. So for those of you who don't know, this is an incredible and rich historical mystery series, and it's actually based on India's only female lawyer, first female lawyer, Perveen Mistry. As a woman, she finds herself in delicate situations that traditional detectives and police don't or won't have access to. And in this latest installment, she is compelled to bring justice to the family of a murdered female Parsi student, just as Bombay's streets erupt in riots to protest British colonial rule. So again, it is great for mystery fans, but also if you're just a historical fiction reader, I would highly recommend this series to you. The plot, to jump in really briefly, it takes place in November 1921. Edward VIII, Prince of Wales, is arriving in Bombay to begin a 4-month tour. The Indian subcontinent is chafing under British rule, and Bombay solicitor Perveen Mistry isn't surprised when local unrest over the royal arrival spirals into riots. She's horrified by the death of Frenny Cuttingmaster, an 18-year-old female Parsi student who falls from a second-floor gallery just as the prince's grand procession is passing by her college. The point for Perveen when she gets involved is because Frenny had actually come to her for a legal consultation just days before her death. And what she confided in Perveen makes it suspicious enough that Perveen thinks her death was not an accident. So again, even if you're not a mystery fan, would highly recommend this very accessible and rich historical read. And again, if you like this upcoming title, then you'll love her other series. And what better way to get involved with a book when there are many more of them to come. So next up, we're going to jump over to the literary press really quickly with Summer Fun, a title that I'm really personally excited about it. Summer Fun is by acclaimed author Jean Thornton. This is an epic singular look at fandom, creativity, longing, and trans identity. It is a relatively contemporary story, but it is set kind of against the backdrop of a 60s-esque California band, sorry, not 60s-esque, a Beach Boys-esque 60s California pop band called the Get Happies. And in the story, Gala, a young trans woman, works at a hostel in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. She's obsessed with the Get Happies, who are in this novel, in this novelistic universe, the quintessential 1960s California band, helmed by its residential genius, only known in Gala's letters as B. While it has no strict basis in actual fact, you'll recognize again a Beach Boys-esque figure in B and the Get Happies. And here are some of the questions that circle in Gala's mind. Why did the band stop making music? And specifically, why did they never release their rumored album, Summer Fun? So Gala writes letters to B. This actually entire novel is told in the form of an epistolary novel, although they are unanswered and unsent letters. And these letters shed light not only on the Get Happies, but they also importantly and equally as importantly, paint an extraordinary portrait of Gala herself. The parallel narratives of B and Gala form a dialogue about creation of music, identity, self, culture, and counterculture. And again, what I personally love about Summer Fun is that much of it does take this form of an epistolary novel, but Jean completely reinvents the form. And it's difficult now to do an epistolary novel that feels new, but this one is definitely it. So this is a brilliant and magical work of transliterature that marks Thornton as one of our most exciting and original novelists. And as you can see on the PowerPoint, Tori Peters gave it a great blurb. And I love one of the things she said, which was, this is like the pet sounds of transliterature. So I will end on those words. Next up, maybe last up actually, because I know I'm running out of time. We have Clark and Division, to go back to our crime imprint. This one is set in 1944 Chicago. It's a standalone novel, maybe the beginning of a series, we'll see, and written by Edgar Award winner Naomi Hirahara. It is an eye-opening and poignant new mystery, the story of a young woman searching for the truth about her revered older sister's death. Specifically, it brings to focus the struggles of one Japanese American family released from mass incarceration at Manzanar during World War II. To jump briefly into the plot, 20-year-old Aki Ito and her parents have just been released from Manzanar, where they have been detained by the US government since the aftermath of Pearl Harbor, together with thousands of other Japanese Americans. The life in California the Itos were forced to leave behind is absolutely gone. Instead, they are being resettled 2,000 miles away in Chicago, where Aki's older sister Rose was sent months earlier. They are moved to the new Japanese American neighborhood near Clark and Division Streets, that's the title. But on the eve of the Itos family reunion, Rose is killed by a subway train. Aki, who absolutely worshipped her sister, is stunned. Officials quickly rule Rose's death a suicide, but she cannot believe her perfect, polished, and optimistic sister would end her life. Her instinct tells her there's much more to the story, and she knows she is the only person who could ever learn the truth. And again, these are inspired by historical events. Clark and Division infuses that, though, with an atmospheric and heartbreakingly real crime fiction plot with rich period details and delicately wrought stories. Naomi is an amazing writer. We're really excited to have her at Soho Crime. And again, I would recommend this to historical fiction readers as well as crime fiction readers. So that is Clark and Division. And very quickly, I do have one more, yet another crime title for everybody. This is House of Ashes. Stuart Neville is the king of Belfast noir. He has won the Los Angeles Times Book Prize and been shortlisted for the Edgar, McCavity, Dillis, Barry, and Anthony Awards, as well as a CWA Steel Dagger. So he's a much beloved crime writer. This takes a little bit more of a psychological thriller turn. It's ideal for fans of Gillian Flynn and Tana French. And this is the chilling story of a Northern Irish murder, 60 years buried. That's a little spoilery, but again, I want to kind of hit all the important points here. The novel follows Sarah Kane, whose husband Damien uprooted them from England and moved them to his native Northern Ireland for a quote unquote fresh start in the wake of her, Sarah's nervous breakdown. Sarah kind of plays her cards a little close to the chest at first, but soon you kind of see how isolated she is. She knows no one in Northern Ireland. She's jobless, carless, and also friendless. And kind of she comes to realize that she is kind of a prisoner in her own house. However, things take even a kind of a darker turn when an old woman beats on the door, insisting that the house is hers before being bundled back to her care facility. After this incident, Sarah begins to understand that the house has a terrible history that her husband never intended for her to discover. It does have a certain parallel with her own history, which I won't go into too much, but Sarah is also able to get some perspective on her own situation as she unfurls this story. As these two women form a bond over their shared traumas, Sarah finds the strength to stand up to her abuser, and Mary, who is the woman who has been silent for 6 decades, is finally ready to tell her story through Sarah. So again, I would recommend this for anyone, any fans of Tana French, any fans of psychological thrillers. It is absolutely gripping. I read it in about, I think, 1 sitting, maybe 2, maybe 1.5, but it is excellent and we're really, really excited for it. So that is all at Soho Press. That's me. I'm Alexa Waco. You can check out our galleys in our booth or email me directly at awaco@sohopress.com, and we hope to hear from you.
Hi, everyone. This is Tim McCall at Melville House, Vice President and Associate Publisher here, and I'm joining Amelia Stymax, our Marketing Director. We are very excited to be celebrating our 20th year this year, and we've got 5 terrific novels and 2 big works of nonfiction to bring your way today. So let's get right to it. First up, very important work of nonfiction. The Storm is Upon Us: How QAnon Became a Movement, a Cult, a Conspiracy Theory of Everything, by Mike Rothschild. Rothschild is an expert on fringe culture and on QAnon specifically. And his narrative, it begins and ends with a very sympathetic look at the vulnerable participants who have been exploited by QAnon. And he looks at them in a very sympathetic way. And then in between, he gives you the detail of where QAnon came from, where they're going, what they're all about. His goal is not so much to talk to you about who started QAnon. Other people are investigating that. But Mike is telling us where they got their power to destabilize and why we need to be very concerned about them in the future. Now, the key to this book and this narrative is Rothschild himself. He has appeared throughout the national media, and we are putting this book out with the national media campaign. You can see he's been in the New York Times, the Washington Post, NPR, etc. And judging by the media response that we're getting to date, and by the pre-sales that we're experiencing, this is going to be a very important narrative for the fall. We're announcing 150,000 copies on this book. Mike is sympathetic to listen to, he's amiable, but he's very, very smart. And if you're at all confused about what is actually behind QAnon, I hope you can join our live event in the booth and listen to him yourself. He will be in conversation with his editor. This is available September 21. We'll have galleys for you on NetGalley and Edelweiss very soon. And there's reading material for you to download in the booth. And I'm going to turn it over to Amelia.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, everyone. I'm Amelia, the Marketing Director at Melville, and I'm really excited to tell you guys about The Fugitivities. So this is a debut novel from an up-and-coming author. Jesse has a book of essays coming out very soon as well, so we're expecting to hear lots of buzz about him. But The Fugitivities is a really smart piece of literary fiction and cultural criticism. It's exploring everything from race to immigration to class politics, while also being just a really engaging story. So Jesse is weaving all these bold themes together through a really classic narrative, that of a young Black man who's searching for himself. So our main character, Jonah, was raised in Paris, and he's now living in Brooklyn at the start of the book, but he doesn't have much vision for his own future. He's just sort of living day to day when he has a chance encounter that really inspires him to take his life in his own hands. So Jonah heads to Brazil, where the bulk of the book takes place. Adventure ensues, friendships are made, friendships are broken, and Jonah really gets a hold of himself, and he begins to slowly define his identity. So this is it's gorgeous prose. It's a really incredible story, and Jesse is just one to watch out for. So we do have this up on NetGalley and Edelweiss, so you can go ahead and take a read. And back to you, Tim.
Okay, thank you. This brings us to a very exciting novel, The Bloodless Boy by Robert J. Lloyd, a book that came to us by a bookseller who had read a self-published version. This is a historical thriller at its finest. The body of a boy is found on a riverbank in London. It's the Restoration, just after the Civil War. The boy's body is drained of blood. There's a cipher left with him to be decoded. And the novel is about who is responsible, what is the message the murderer is leaving, and what are the consequences for London society. This takes place during the Restoration, and it is filled with the science and the art of the Enlightenment. It's got all of the things that you're looking for in a historical page turner. It's got science, it's got codes, religion, murder, politics. There are new investigators, Harry Hunt and Robert Hooke. Every chapter is a cliffhanger. It is filled with mise en scène. It has real characters intertwined with amazing creations by Robert Lloyd. His gift for character is superb. And you will also hear from real historical people like John Locke and the Earl of Shaftesbury. We are very excited because it's the first book. And this is the first book in a trilogy. The package will be coming out with a major media campaign. We're looking to get a lot of reads on this. And so we will be doing a lot of galleys. The ARC will be available very shortly, and there is reading material available to you now in the booth. It goes on sale November 2nd, and that is The Bloodless Boy. Amelia, over to you.
Thank you. All right, so next is Strange Beasts of China, which is possibly one of the most interesting books I've read all year, or maybe in many years. It's really unlike anything you'll ever read. So Strange Beasts of China is set in a fictional village where beasts are living almost indistinguishably alongside humans. And our unnamed narrator is a novelist and amateur cryptozoologist, and she has set out to document every beast in the city. So in each chapter, you're learning about a different creature, and it's all tied together by our main character, who's also finding clues to her own past as she goes along. It's quiet, it's dark, it's surreal. It left me thinking about it long after I finished. And we have been flooded with requests for this one. So this is up on NetGalley, and early readers are absolutely loving it. We have some really nice reviews up already. I think this will be for fans of science fiction, fantasy, and magical realism. We'll just devour this. And the author and translator are going to be in our booth at 12 o'clock today. So if this sounds of interest, I hope you'll stop by and meet them. Back to you, Tim.
Another important work of nonfiction. This goes on sale today, actually. Privacy is Power. Why and how you should take back control of your data. With the Department of Justice and consumers both scrutinizing giants like Google, Facebook, and Amazon, the time is perfect for Carissa Valise's Privacy is Power. Valise's book is the first to call for an end to the data economy. She offers a roadmap to consumers and governments to get it done. She argues that a healthy, profitable digital economy is possible without the theft of personal information. For Valise, it's a matter of consumer and government responsibility and ethical resolve. And she believes it's time to recognize the ominous threat of amassed personal data and end it. The narrative of privacy is power is for everyone. This is clear, concise, and very prescriptive writing. It's not just for policy wonks. You may want to download our Citizens Privacy Checklist and the 10 steps to protecting your privacy. Those are available in the booth and on our website. And they very much encapsulate Valise's message in this book. She is an Oxford professor. She is an artificial intelligence ethicist. She has testified to the House of Lords, and she is a member of the leadership team that is putting together privacy protocols for the country of Spain, which is where she's from. She lives in London, and she is very much poised to be a voice to carry on a global conversation around privacy and protecting us from the theft of our personal data. You will be able to attend some of the many virtual events that we're scheduling for Carissa in the months ahead. And that takes us to Just Thieves, a brilliant gem of a little novel. This is noir at its finest. And if you like noir, you are going to really enjoy Just Thieves. A couple of thieves, low-level thieves, they are partners in crime. They work for a handler who sets them off to steal seemingly innocuous things. No one ever gets hurt. They never get rich. It pays the bills. It makes their life work until it doesn't anymore. The story takes place in an unnamed city, and they get calls telling them what their next job is. What happens is they get a call to go steal this very innocuous object, and it sets things in motion. And when they go downhill very fast. It's a brilliant novel. At the heart of this novel is the mechanics of control, the mechanics of social control, and the victims of it and how they manage to survive. Every piece of the novel fits together, and when it's all over, you won't see the end coming, and you will think about this for a very long time. I like the comp to David Mamet, the pacing of the novel, the language, and the way it unfolds is very much like David Mamet. And if you like noir, I think you're going to be very intrigued by Greg Galloway's Just Thieves.
Okay. So we have another mystery for our last title here, Northern Heist. It's really a classic thriller. It's full of cliffhangers, and it's just a really fun read. Beyond that, it has what might be the coolest backstory of any book we've ever published. So it's the story of an audacious bank robbery, and it's actually based on a real-life bank robbery in Belfast, one of the biggest in history that was never solved. And the author is actually a former IRA bank robber. So Ricky, the author, toyed with the story of how this robbery might have gone down for about a decade before he sat down and wrote Northern Heist. And you can actually head to our booth and hear Ricky O'Raw telling that story in his own words. So this is it's an edge of your seat ride through the criminal underworld, has everything from tiger kidnappings to money laundering to double crosses. I really cannot recommend this enough. It's a great read. It's really fun. And we have an advanced reader's copy in your tote bag. So I hope you guys will dip in and give it a try.
Thanks, Amelia. And that takes us to the end. Thank you very much. Please visit us at mhpbooks.com or reach out to Amelia at mhpbooks.com. And we will turn it over now to the next publisher.
Hi, sorry. I will share my screen with you in 1 second. There we go. Hi, this is Nicole DeJacomo from Quirk Books. I handle marketing, sales, and publicity. Some of you may know us from Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, the William Shakespeare Star Wars series, and other best-selling children's books, adult fiction, and nonfiction. I am going to start off with It's Your Funeral. Plan the celebration of a lifetime before it's too late. Literally put the fun back into funeral. This book is perfect for people who are death curious, death anxious, and it really helps you to plan what your life will look like after you die. It gives you the power to control every aspect of your funeral and how to go about it. Some of the things that you will learn in this book is how to budget for your burial, planning what you'll wear, how you might be buried with your pet, writing your own eulogy, and most importantly, digital estate planning for after you're gone. This book is perfect for fans of Caitlin Doughty, as well as readers of books like The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. I think what's really great about this book is that the author, Kathy Benjamin, makes this really accessible and doesn't really work. It's light and it's not as heavy as some of these books typically are. Moving on next is Dare to Know, which is one of the first speculative thrillers Quirk has published since the Last Policeman trilogy by Ben Winters. This book is Dark Matters meets Annihilation. It's a mind-bending and emotional speculative thriller that Chuck Warren says you should dare to read. It's wildly ambitious and highly immersive. It's about a company that can predict your death to the second, and they sell this information for a price. When one of their best salesmen gets into a car accident, he is concerned about when he might die, and so he does something that no death predictor is supposed to do, which is look up his own death. And it turns out he died 23 minutes before. And now he needs to figure out what really happened. Is he dead? Is his algorithm wrong? It's never wrong. And from there, you go on this fever dream of an experience where you're literally turning the pages. This is James Kennedy's adult debut. He is married to a librarian at the Evanston, Illinois Public Library. And I hope you'll go say hi to him at 11 a.m. at Quirk's booth. There is a link for a digital ARC as well, so you can get your hands on this book. It's a lot of fun to read, and it will keep you thinking. If you're interested in how science and technology meet philosophy, this book really is thought-provoking. Next up is William Shakespeare's The Avengers, which New York Times bestselling author Ian Desher, who is best known for the William Shakespeare Star Wars series, imagines the four main Avengers movies as Shakespearean plays, complete with stage directions, iambic pentameter, and an amazing variety of 20 color illustrations, as well as 20 black and white illustrations. This really is will be a fan favorite and a must see and a must read for fans of the Avengers and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Next up is from Quirk's Kids List. And this is a 2-book middle grade series featuring stories of environmental stewardship meant to help kids figure out how they can affect change and be good stewards of the earth. Andrea Debink is giving a nonfiction, she's part of the nonfiction PRH middle grade panel. And the first book in the series, The Wild World Handbook, which looks at habitats and how you can explore those habitats, understand them better, and interact with them in order to preserve them, is in your tote bag. You can also keep an eye out for the Wild World Handbook Creatures, which explores 7 creatures. Each of these books has inspiring stories. It has hands-on activities and some really great tidbits and facts that middle graders will love. And it's also highly illustrated. It's really beautiful, and you get like a nice little taste of it through these covers. The next kids book from Quirk is another series of middle grade nonfiction. These are the Little Kid Big City series, and they are from Beth Beckman, who is a travel influencer and the creator of the Little Kid Big City Instagram account, where she shares family adventures. What's wonderful about this series is it is a pick your own path. So kids can literally choose where they visit in some of the world's greatest cities. The series started out with New York and moves to London in the summer. And while we can't travel now, it's a great way to fulfill some of that that wanderlust that we might be having. It's a great way for kids to learn about a new city. And eventually when they can travel, it gives them the autonomy and the agency to be able to decide where the family goes when they're on vacation. Each book has a great resources section for those visits, as well as a fold-out map so that you could take it on the go. Next is Dog's First Baby, which is an adorable board book by Natalie Nelson, who captures the wonder and humor of bringing a new baby home through a dog's eyes. This is sure to delight kids and dog parents with heartwarming and playful illustrations that will help any child that is going to have a sibling get an idea of what bringing a new baby home will be like. As you can see, these illustrations by Natalie are just so bright and colorful and joyful, and the text is so simple but powerful in what it explains. This comes out on October 5th. And then last, I'm really excited to share another book by Ian Desher. 2021 is a big year for him as an author. This is I Wish I Had a Wookiee and Other Poems for Our Galaxy. This is inspired by the beloved world of Star Wars, and it's a collection of 75 original poems written by William Shakespeare Star Wars and Avengers author Ian Desher, and illustrated by Tim Budgeon. It's a celebration of childhood and how we interact with Star Wars. It has poems like I Wish I Had a Wookiee and Dad's Luke Skywalker figurine, in which a child and his father and her father take out his beloved figurine and start playing with it, which, as some Star Wars fans might know, is a little bit controversial, but it is just absolutely adorable. And if you're familiar with Quirk's A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the poetry of Mr. Rogers, this is a great complement to this. It shows how pop culture and the pop culture that we love can be translated into poetry and really spark creativity and using your fandom for creative pursuits at a young age. So that is all from Quirk Books. Feel free to be in touch with me and visit our booth. We have some great arts available and giveaways, and we would love to connect with you. Thanks, and have a great rest of the show.
Hi, everybody. Let me get situated here. Okay. Hi, everybody. I am Kelly Coyle-Crivelli from Penguin Random House. It is lovely to be back. As you can see how wonderful my job is, I get to work with all of these wonderful clients all the time and publishers, and it's always very hard to follow Quirk. And I won't be putting fun in your funeral, but I do have some really fun books to talk to you about today. And as you can see, we have a really great diverse list of publishing partners that we work with. So you'll notice when I do my presentation that I have something for everybody, and that is what we love to talk about. So I have a sampling that will bring us all over the place, but it'll be fun. Before I start, I just want to remind you of our next morning book buzz, which we hope you can join us for on April 14th, where we will again discuss some of our favorite titles and some hot genres. You can use the tiny URL on the bottom of the screen to sign up. If you haven't joined us for a morning book buzz before, these are really fun programs. They're about an hour long, where we just talk to you once a month about the books that we're excited about and that are coming up in all different genres. And it's our way of connecting with you and staying in touch with you over the past year, because we know it's been hard to do that. And we have been blown away by the response that we've had and the dedicated fan base. So we hope you can join us for our morning book buzz on April 14th. Another program we started doing this year because we realized that sometimes there's a need for some more of our nonfiction titles. And so our third episode of Library Lunch and Learn will be focused around planning for Pride Month titles. So that will be on May 13th at 1 o'clock. We have a New York Public Librarian who will be the host, and we will have other authors for you as well, and also some titles that you can use in your collection for your plans for Pride Month this year. And now on to some titles. So my first title is from Hay House, and this is for people that are fans of Jill Bolte Taylor's first book, My Stroke of Insight, and that was a New York Times bestselling title. And for half a century, we have been trained to believe that our right brain hemisphere is our emotional brain, while our left brain houses our rational thinking. How many times have you heard people say, are you left-brained or right-brained? But now neuroscience shows that it's not actually that simple. Each hemisphere has both an emotional and a thinking brain. And in this groundbreaking new book, Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor presents these 4 distinct modules of cells as 4 characters that make up who we are. Character 1, left thinking. Character 2, left emotion. Character 3, right emotion. And character 4, right thinking. The more we become familiar with each of the characters in ourselves and others, the more power we gain over our thoughts. Indeed, we discover that we have the power to choose who and how we want to be in every moment. And when our 4 characters work together and balance one another as a whole brain, we gain a radical new roadmap to deep inner peace. This book will show you how to use this information on a daily basis and learn to identify and relate these characteristics in your daily life and bring an inner peace. So very interesting book from Hay House. Next up, completely switching gears, is Barcelona Dreaming from Rupert Thompson, who Rupert has such a great fan base. He's such a fun writer. His stories always so touching. They always bring you to different corners of the world. And Barcelona Dreaming is that kind of book as well. Set on the eve of the financial crash of 2008, this evocative novel is made up of 3 stories linked by time and place, and also by the moving, unexpected interactions of a very rich cast of characters, which we very much expect from Rupert Thompson. It is narrated in turn by an English woman who runs a gift shop, an alcoholic jazz pianist, and a translator tormented by unrequited love. All of their lives will be changed forever by one tragic event. And underpinning the novel and casting a long shadow is a crime committed against a young Moroccan immigrant. And this will bring the 3 characters together. It explores themes of addiction, racism, celebrity, immigration, and self-delusion. And it's fueled by a longing for the unattainable and nostalgia for what is about to be lost. Barcelona Dreaming is a love letter to one of the world's most beautiful cities and a powerful and poignant fable for our uncertain times. I returned from Barcelona about 3 days before our entire country went into lockdown. So this is one that I've been looking forward to reading to bring me back to Barcelona. Next up, this book has such a fun plot. And this author is with us today at our festival. So hopefully you will be able to join the panel that she's on, that is a fairy tale retellings panel. So Wendy Darling is a lush feminist reimagining on what happened to Wendy after Neverland, for fans of Circe and the Mere Wife. Find the second star from the right and fly straight until morning, all the way to Neverland, a child's paradise with no rules, no adults, only endless adventure and enchanted forests, all led by the charismatic boy who will never grow old. But Wendy, darling, grew up. She has a husband and a young daughter called Jane, a life in London. But one night, after all these years, Peter Pan returns. Wendy finds him outside her daughter's window, looking to claim a new mother for his lost boys. But instead of Wendy this time, he takes Jane. Now a grown woman, a mother, a patient, and a survivor, Wendy must follow Peter back to Neverland to rescue her daughter and finally face the darkness at the heart of the island. So fun. Switching gears again, back to a really important nonfiction title, which I know all of you have been very supportive of Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility, and this is her follow-up book to that called Nice Racism. This builds on the groundwork laid in the New York Times bestselling White Fragility, and DiAngelo explores a culture of niceness, how a culture of niceness inadvertently promotes racism. In White Fragility, Robin DiAngelo explained how racism is a system into which all white people are socialized and challenged the belief that racism is a simple matter of good people versus bad. DiAngelo also made a provocative claim: white progressives cause the most daily harm to people of color. In Nice Racism, her follow-up work, she examines how that happens. Drawing on her background as a sociologist and over 25 years as an anti-racist educator, she picks up where White Fragility left off and moves the conversation forward. So this is an important book coming from Beacon Press in June. The Infinite Staircase. This is another one that's very, this is from Ben Bella Books, who we just started working with this year, which is very exciting for us. The Infinite Staircase, what the universe tells us about life, ethics, and mortality. In this bold new book, high-tech's best-known strategist makes a seminal contribution to the search for meaning in a secular era. Two questions fundamental to human existence have always been the metaphysical: where do I fit in the grand scheme of things? And how should I behave? Religion is no longer a source of answers for many people, and he finds that nothing has replaced that. So he uses his signature framework-based approach to these questions, taking us on an intellectual roller coaster ride through physics, chemistry, and biology, the social sciences, and the humanities. Along the way, he builds a metaphorical ladder that leads from the Big Bang to the need of ethical action in our daily lives. The Infinite Staircase provides a coherent and unified platform for a full human life, and that is coming in August. Next up is a book that I started, and it's amazingly written and just absolutely lovely. And it's from Catapult Press, and it's called Made in China, and it's for fans of mother-daughter memoirs and inspiring tales of overcoming adversity. It's about a young girl forced to work in a Queen sweatshop who calls child services on her mother. And she's a teen, and her name is Anna Q, and she's sent by her mother to work in her family's garment factory in Queens. At home, she is treated as a maid and suffers punishment for doing her homework at night. Her mother wants to teach her a lesson. She is Chinese, not American, and as such is her tough path in this new world. But instead of acquiescing, Q alerts the Office of Children and Family Services and acts with consequences that impact her for the rest of her life. Now we find her 20 years later, estranged from her mother and working at a Manhattan startup. Q requests her report from the OCFS, and when it arrives, she realizes that key details are wrong. Faced with this false narrative and on the brink of losing her job at a once shiny, profitable company, she looks once more at her life's truths, from abandonment to an abusive family to seeking dignity and meaning in work. Made in China is a fierce memoir, unafraid to ask the thorny questions about trauma and survival in immigrant families, the meaning of work, and the costs of immigration. And it's just it's a very brave book. I highly suggest this one. It comes in August. I really am bringing you all over the place with my titles. This one is called Beware the Mermaids, perfect summer read that comes out in August. And this one is fun. It is a debut, perfect for fans of Ellen Hildebrand and Susan Mallory, about romance, betrayal, and an epic yacht race. I mean, what else do you need in a great summer read? Wealthy Hermosa Beach housewife Nancy Hadley is no pushover. So when her philandering husband is caught red-handed with an opportunistic widow on their racing yacht, Nancy sticks it to him. She tells him she wants a divorce, but she also wants the yacht. She wants the yacht just as much as she wants the divorce, actually. Roger would rather make Nancy's life a living hell than give up his boat. Makes sense. But Nancy has other plans. After moving out of their opulent home, she and her posse of girlfriends invest in a racing yacht of their own to live on, and she teaches them the fine points of sailing. Meanwhile, and unbeknownst to Nancy, a big real estate development is underway that would destroy her beloved harbor and her new home. When scheming Roger turns to ask Nancy to help capture the last committee vote held by Nancy's old college friend, Nancy prepares for battle. Nancy is not skittish about taking a few risks, so in a bold gambit, she makes a bet with Roger, a showdown in the thriller Border Dash race from Newport Harbor down to Mexico. The winner of the race will get everything. The stage is set for the race of a lifetime and the tantalizing possibility of a new romance for Nancy in this heartwarming, breathlessly exciting novel that is a fun book on divorce, but also has a race element to it that makes it very fun. The next title is Water. Hold on one second. Whoops. I have, oh, sorry. Here we go. Water, a visual and scientific history. And this is from the MIT Press. And this is really a pretty fascinating book. The story of the most abundant substance on the earth, from its origins in the birth of stars billions of years ago, and its importance to the living world. Water is so ubiquitous in our lives that it's easy to take for granted. The average American uses 90 gallons of water a day. Nearly every liquid we encounter is mostly water. Milk, for example, is 87% water. Clouds and ice and other forms affect our climate. Water is the most abundant substance on Earth. And in this lavishly illustrated volume, science writer Jack Challoner tells the story of water from its origins in the birth of stars to its importance in the living world. He investigates photosynthesis and water's role in the evolutionary history and discusses water and weather, reviewing topics that range from snowflake science to climate change. Finally, he considers the possibility of water beyond our own hydrosphere on other planets, on the moon, and in interstellar space. Unstitched. This is a really important book from Soho Press that's coming out towards the end of September. And it's about the opioid epidemic that has hit communities large and small across all socioeconomic classes in our country. And what this book aims to do is to help bring an end to the they call it bystanderism. So just instead of just looking and seeing what's happening, but to actually get involved and to care about the actual individuals that this is affecting on a daily basis. And it's become, its own version of a pandemic in our country. A stranger rumored to be a heroin addict repeatedly breaks into a small town library that Brett Ann Stanchion runs. After she tries to get law enforcement to do something about it, the elementary school and young parents with babies are always in the place after all. He ends up committing suicide because she calls, the police on him, and he's going to end up getting in trouble. When she realizes how little she knows about opioid abuse, she sets out on a mission seeking insight from others, people in recovery, treatment providers, the town police chief, the U.S. attorney, the Vermont's U.S. attorney, etc. This book portrays the complexity of interpersonal relationships thrown into relief against the overarching question of why do we recoil from those who are struggling with addiction rather than reaching out to help them. So this is a very important book. I hope that you will look at it for your collections in your library. And it's about how we can, instead of turning our backs on people with this addiction, we can reach out and learn more and educate ourselves in order to help and share in the burden of helping people to get off of these terrible drugs. And I'm going to end here with some cookbooks. We do have a very fun list of cookbooks that we get to work with all the time for every season. And so I am giving you the three different choices here. One for 5-ingredient dinners from America's Test Kitchen, which basically America's Test Kitchen is so good at helping you just really get a recipe right. So you open your refrigerator, you have 5 random items, but they promise you that out of these 5 ingredients, you will be able to make a dinner that actually tastes really great and is creative and fun, and also will take you less than an hour. So there you go. And I know everyone is sick and tired of cooking this year, so this might be great just to have the 5 recipes, the 5 ingredients to go into the recipe. I think 5 is my limit. If I need more than 5 ingredients, I don't make it, or I just make it with only 5 of the most important ingredients. You can ask my children. They don't always compliment my cooking. Then the next book is from Kingston Imperial. How fun. It's a cocktail book from T-Pain, who is a Grammy Award-winning artist. And he brings Can I Mix You a Drink? A liquor guide inspired by his platinum hits, combining unique drinks with an experience that only T-Pain can provide. So this is not only a fun book for making classic cocktails, but also T-Pain puts a fun spin on a lot of them. And the last book sort of needs no introduction, The Best Ever Cookie Cookbook. I mean, honestly, what else can you say? 100 tested till perfect recipes for crispy, chewy, and ooey gooey treats. And that is from Hearst Home, and that comes in September. And everyone loves a cookie, whether you go right to the chocolate or you're more of a buttery shortbread fan. There's a cookie for everyone, holiday cookies, everything, you name it. So we hope that you will check out our wonderful cookbooks as well. And that is all from me. If you download the tiny URL on your screen or copy and paste it or whatever, and all of this will be available, don't forget, afterwards for 3 months. But if you go to that URL, you will be able to download all the titles I just talked about today. And we want to thank all of you for joining us for this book buzz. I want to thank all my publishing partners for living through another Zoom recording. It's been quite the experience this year. And just make sure to check out the exhibit hall where you can visit our sponsors' booths. We have all kinds of goodies and giveaways for you. And like I said, remember the entire environment, virtual environment, will be available for 3 months. So don't feel like you have to get to everything today. Thank you all very much. Take care.